Thank you so much. Oh, don't clone. You only pay $10. I can fuck with him. I went to high school. I'm telling you, let me tell you something. I've known Randy Vaughn seriously since 9th grade. And let me tell you something. Back in high school, he wasn't half the man he is today. More like a third. Where's your wife? Maria, are you back there? Oh, Maria, you got a big boy on your head, sweetheart. You love him big, don't you? That's all. Oh, see, that's it. Randy's a real teddy bear. I'll bet, like, he's really romantic. You know, he'll come home on a Friday night, dim the lights a little bit, grill up a couple of Brontosaurus burgers, put on a little Chris Brown. Oh, DJ K-Roll is still missing. We found him. He's no longer lost. No, I'm kidding. I shouldn't be teasing Randy. That's bullying, and that's against the law now. Something that wasn't against the law when I was at an all-black high school. It's a new thing. Honest to God, it was like the craziest. I started in Brazil. Where are my classmates? I got a bunch of classmates. Tim Little, there we go. Okay, Chris Pringle. A couple of my buddies are here. They were all there. They know. There were a couple of white kids in my class, but you know, I left like an all-Irish and Italian Catholic school, and then my parents put me in like the most urban high school in central New Jersey. I couldn't believe I walked in the first day. Everyone looked like Dante de Blasio. I was 4'11", 77 pounds. And I remember the guidance counselor looking at my mother and saying, like, he's fucked. And my mother was like, tell me about it. Randy and I are tough. We were raised to be bullied. Because when we were kids, it was just a thing. Like, if someone was bigger than you, they were allowed to bully you. If you were small, it was just, you know, there was nothing you could do about it. And I had 10 brothers and sisters. Imagine that, 10 brothers and sisters. And my parents had no time for bullshit. So you couldn't come home and say, I was bullied. The answer was always like, well, you must have done something wrong. I was like, I was white. That was enough. No, but we did have some really good times in high school. But I look at my own kids, and they're living like the exact opposite of the childhood of what I had. You know, my kids are in therapy right now because I made them fly to Rome in coach. Okay? They never got over it. My parents would be behind bars today if they were raising me now the way they did then. Honest to God, it was like, first of all, I was raised on a steady diet of peanut butter and secondhand smoke. A nice combination. My parents would load us into the car. I'm not even like, at one point it's like 14 people in one station wagon. My mother and father in the front, a baby in the glove compartment, a toddler in the ashtray, 4 in the middle, and the rest in the backpack. My kids watch TV on everything. They're always on their iPhones. And my son will sit in his bedroom with headphones on, listening to music, watching How I Met Your Mother on his iPhone, and he's watching something else like on his TV. I honestly can't figure it out. We had one television in our house that worked on occasion. And back in the day, you watched what your parents watched. Your mother and father weren't really interested in what you were going to watch. My mother wanted to watch the news. Right. So we were allowed to watch 3 things. Either the news, shit on PBS, or whatever show had a hot actress my father was attracted to. We weren't allowed to talk during Policewoman. Quiet, Andy Dickens is talking. You know, we watched it in one room. There were like 13 people, like draped around, like everywhere, around one television, and my father's like lusting after Loretta Swit. It was unbelievable. But the one night of the week that we gained control of the TV was Friday nights. Thank God for Friday nights. Who remembers Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, Route 222, Hot Couple, Love American Style. I remember, like, that was the one night, like, that we were allowed to take control of the TV, and we used to love the Brady Bunch. We knew it was a comedy right then and there. We would watch it and be like, 6 kids and a maid. What a bunch of orphans. We just thought it was like the funniest thing. And we used to entertain each other. And, like, you know, my entertainment contribution was, you know, I would imitate the trumpet with my mouth. So I would always imitate the Brady Bunch music. I especially liked it when it was sad. You know, like when Tiger was missing and Bobby would walk away. It was crazy. And when you have as many siblings as I have, your parents typically have 3 guesses to get to your name. And it was always like they had a vague idea of who you were. It's kind of like, he seems familiar. One time, I was about 8 or 9 years old. I cut my foot open at a barbecue on a Coke bottle. Who remembers glass Coke bottles? And I remember I went to the emergency room, and the nurse looked up at my father, and she said, "Has he had his tetanus shot?" And my father said, "Hold on a minute, let me check." And he pulled out his wallet. From his wallet, he pulled out a sheet of paper and just began to unfold this enormous chart. And then look, and it's all of our names and medical histories. It was like fractured skull, 1963, appendectomy, 1967. And my father looked down at the chart, and then he looked up at me, and he looked at the chart, and he looked up at me, and he looked down at the chart, and then he went like this. He said, "You're Paul, right?" And I said, "That's what everyone's been calling me." They would absolutely be in prison. They left me at the beach, okay? Not just any beach, Long Beach Island, which takes a causeway to get there. I was about 5 years old. We went to the beach. I guess we pulled over at like some rest stop. We had to go in to change our bathing suits. I was embarrassed because I'm Irish. I went into a stall. Hence the nickname Fun Size. And I went into a stall. And I guess I took a long time. It must have been stuck on me. I was pulling it out. And I just remember coming out of the bathroom, and I see the bumper of our station wagon just move. And my parents, they sat in massive traffic. They were over the causeway and on the Parkway North before anybody realized I was gone. My father said to me, my father must have said something. My father like said something and used my name, and I got no response. And my father said, "Is Paul sleeping?" And my brother said, "No, Dad, Paul's not here." And my father slammed on the brake and said, "What do you mean he's not here? Look behind the ice chest." And I'm not even kidding, like, I was there for hours. I remember coming out of the bathroom. I was 5, I was Irish, I was sunburned. It was like they shared a bottle of copper tone with 12 other people. And I remember I came out, I saw the bumper, and I was like, "Oh my God, I guess I need to set up shop here. I guess I forage for food as soon as I find out what forage means." No, but I remember it's just sort of like everything we did is probably against the law now. You know, there's so many laws now that they didn't have when I was a kid. You know, the guys from New Brunswick High School will remember back in the day when we didn't have the Leave No Child Behind Act. Back then it was assumed a third of us, especially the boys, were morons, and we were pegged from day one. It was like, Ward, Murnick, Evans, Kovar, come with me. No, you don't need notebooks where you're going. It's career day, and you're going to go listen to the fat bitch from the DMV. Does that break your head? Or the DPW. Take your pick. But it's so funny. People are obsessed with... it's so funny. Like, there's an obsession with kids and sports these days that didn't exist when I was a kid. I mean, like, thank God my kids are terrible athletes. I couldn't be prouder. I mean, I look at all these kids. Everyone's like, I want travel softball, I travel tennis, I travel hockey and lacrosse. And, you know, and I remember, like, my player was playing a lacrosse game about a month ago. I went, And I walked in, I was like, oh my God, it's Tuesday afternoon at 3:30 and there's 400 people there. I was like, is Rich Murnick the only guy in this town with a job? But honestly, when I was a kid, my parents had absolutely no involvement in my sports. I think I forged their signature to play soccer. I get myself up, I go to soccer practice, I play soccer, come home, they had no idea. We went to the game on a Thursday afternoon. The only adults there were the coaches and a guy in a van with a telephoto lens who wanted to molest us. Don't worry, he never tried anything, but to be honest, I was kind of insulted. I know you're not supposed to brag, but in 6th grade, I had the fucking body of a 3rd grader, okay? But you know what, it's like times have changed. My father would be horrified. For Father's Day this year, I want a new yoga mat, okay? My father would never do yoga, and the reason he would never do yoga is you're not allowed to smoke at yoga, okay? It's one of those rules. But I don't just do, I started yoga about 2.5 years ago. It's kind of embarrassing, but I went in and the instructor said to me, do you know Bikram? I'm like, well, the guy from tech support, he just fixed my computer 2 days ago. No, but I do hot yoga. And I just, I'm 50 years old, and I'm menopausal. I'm not going to kid you. I sweat at everything. Like the news came out the other day, Donald Trump's announcing he's president. I'm like, oh shit. Like just perspiration came out of everywhere. But you sweat. Where is it? It's 110 degrees or something in there. It's a 75-minute class, and I'm a guy, and I just sweat. Like the sweat is just pouring off of everybody, every pore. And it's so embarrassing because, give me this napkin, like the women, the yoga studio, I don't, first of all, I don't know any of the terminology, and I've been there 2.5 years. People are like, are you leaving? And I'm like, nah, I'm a stay. It's terrible. And the only time I ever understand a term is like, when my classmates and I, there's gossip. People gossip at yoga. They're like, did you hear lion's breath? And wide stance Carsvo are doing the downward dog. No, but it's ridiculous. I walk out of the studio, the women walk out and they're like this. And they get on the elevator and leave. I come out, like my eyes go up, there's sweat coming out of every pore of my body. I look like a passenger from a capsized Korean ferry. It couldn't be any worse. My apologies to passengers who were on capsized Korean ferries. I didn't mean to offend any of you. Well, listen, I'm so glad that you guys are here tonight. We love the support. We're going to keep the show going.